Imagine this for a second. What if some of the really advanced tech, the stuff we think is cutting edge now, was actually being described, maybe even used thousands of years ago? We're talking about ancient flying machines. Seriously. Today, we're doing a deep dive into ancient India. We'll be exploring these incredible Sanskrit texts that talk about something called Vimanas. Our mission really is to pull out the most fascinating bits from these sources and just see what they might tell us about, well, where myth ends and maybe science or history begins.
It's a fantastic starting point, actually. India is, I mean, it's one of the oldest civilizations we know of. We're talking settlements going back over 11,000 years. And there's this absolute trove of ancient records, including these really intriguing descriptions of advanced technologies that, frankly, make you pause.
Okay, let's jump right in then. Ancient Sanskrit texts, some potentially as old as 6,000 BC. And they give these incredibly vivid details, though they do vary a bit about these, well, airplanes called Vimanas. The descriptions, they really paint a picture. They talk about them being powered by some jet engines. You get these accounts of how they flew, causing elephants ran away in panic, and grass was thrown out because there was a lot of pressure from behind those Vimanas.
Right, that level of force, enough to scare elephants. It suggests something beyond simple flight, doesn't it? A scale of technology, maybe, that just doesn't fit our usual picture of the ancient world. What kind of society sees that or builds it?
Exactly. And, while mainstream historians often look at these texts and say, okay, myth, what really grabs you is the level of detail.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Documents like the Vimanas Shastra, for instance, they aren't just vague stories. They get incredibly specific. They talk about the actual metals that are used in these craft. They go into electricity and power sources. They even detail the pilots and the clothing they have to wear, what food that they eat, even the weapons that are kept on these airships. It's remarkable.
It really is stunningly granular. Our sources point out that the flight manuals of the Vimanas are quite similar to the flight manuals you find in the modern passenger flight business or military jet engines. Just think about that. Thousands of years ago, descriptions that mirror modern operational manuals. That's quite a parallel.
And here's something truly extraordinary. These Vimanas, they were described as being controlled mentally controlled. And when you think that our modern military forces are, just starting to develop that kind of tech today.
Wow.
It's a fascinating echo, isn't it?
Yeah.
Almost feels prescient.
Mentally controlled. I mean, that sounds almost impossible for ancient tech. What are the scientific hurdles there, or paradoxes? Do the texts offer any kind of explanation?
Well, the Vimanas Shastra does suggest a propulsion system. It talks about a combination of gyroscopes, electricity, and mercury, which, of course, immediately makes you ask, is this even remotely possible?
Mercury. Yeah, that's an odd one, isn't it? It's a metal, but it's liquid, and it conducts electricity. It's definitely a curious choice for an ancient power source.
And this is where it gets interesting, because modern science actually offers some, well, intriguing links. Studies, including some by NASA apparently, have shown that if you put mercury into a closed gyroscopic device with mercury spinning around and then you can electrify it, well, you can observe levitation effects, anti-gravity kind of effects. They even mention a spinning bright light being part of it. And the Vimanas Shastra specifically suggests Vimanas were powered by several gyroscopes inside a sealed liquid mercury vortex.
Huh. So gyroscopes we use them all the time in planes, spacecraft, subs, for navigation and orientation, like a kid's toy, defying gravity with spin. But mixing that rotation with liquid mercury for levitation, that's where it gets really mind-bending.
Yeah, it is. There's another interpretation from the text, too. Something about mercury rotating and driving some sort of a powerful wind or a windmill effect, which might suggest a kind of flywheel energy storage. Mercury is very dense, so that could be good for packing power into a small space on an aircraft.
Oh, okay, flywheel storage.
But there's a counterpoint. Current flywheel systems, they tend to lose power pretty quickly. And to power something for, say, interstellar travel, the size would have to be absolutely enormous, probably impractical for flight as we know it. So, it also raises questions. Could there be a failure in the translation about this mercury vortex? Or maybe it was some other liquid metal. It's hard to say for sure.
Right. The propulsion is one massive puzzle. But what if these ancient machines connect to something else entirely? Something more contemporary, like interstellar civilizations.
Well, if you broaden the perspective, think about it. Almost any real extraterrestrial civilization visiting us today, their technology would probably look like magic. You'd expect highly advanced technological electromagnetic systems, maybe interfacing with coherent thought or organized thought. capabilities way beyond our current grasp.
And some of those ancient accounts sound eerily familiar, don't they? Like the Pavat Puran, one of the old Sanskrit histories. It describes this spacecraft that was piloted by a king named Shulva. And get this, it was made of metal. Sometimes it appeared to be in two places at once, and even seemed to have emotions similar to that of a butterfly.
That's the really striking part. Those kinds of descriptions appearing in multiple places, strange movement, they are so consistent with what people who observe UFOs today report.
Hmm.
The parallels between ancient accounts and modern sightings can be uncanny.
And it's not just the Pavat Puran. You have other major Sanskrit texts, the Mahabharata, the Rig Veda, the Ramayana. They also describe Vimana, sometimes measuring as wide as 100 feet and often having capabilities like modern aircraft. And they weren't just forgetting around. There's one description of a Vimana that produced a shaft of light, which, when focused on a target, consumed it with its power.
Like a laser beam weapon.
Exactly. It sounds like something out of, the wildest old science fiction, Buck Rogers or Flash Gordon from the 30s, with aerial battles and cities being destroyed.
And here's a key cultural point. All of those stories are totally accepted in the modern society of India. They're part of the historical narrative for many. So it makes it harder to just dismiss them as pure fantasy, right? Because they were written thousands of years ago. Yet they match up surprisingly well with modern UFO reports. It really does lend weight to the idea these might have been physical, real events, and people were just trying to describe them as the best that they could with the language and concepts they had.
It's fascinating, that cultural difference. Here, we debate ancient aliens, but you're saying in parts of India, the idea of ancient advanced beings is almost baseline history.
Pretty much. You wouldn't get far with an ancient alien show there. They'd just say, yeah, and...
Ha. Right. So this raises another important question. If these machines and battles were real, what about the weapons, like that beam of light?
Well, that brings us to the Brahmastras.
Ah, yes, the super weapons. And the physical evidence, maybe? There are reports of finding fields of fused sand of glass in different places, including India, like vitrified sand.
Exactly. And if those fields are real and linked to ancient times, they would confirm the descriptions given in the ancient Sanskrit writings that the people of those times had weapons resembling our modern nuclear weapons. These devastating weapons were called Brahmastras. And the texts often say they came from gods.
Which then makes you ask, who or what were these gods?
Right. And it's interesting, many Hindu gods are often depicted as having blue skin, which some have suggested, well, that may well be describing extraterrestrials. It's speculative, of course, but it adds another layer.
Okay, so if we assume, just for argument's sake, that this describes real, advanced, ancient tech, could that knowledge have vanished completely? Or did echoes survive? This brings us to a really surprising link much later in the 20th century. Victor Schauberger, an Austrian inventor.
That's right. Schauberger developed a type of vortex engine, artificial tornado, as it were, where vortex activity and gyroscopic activity could be harnessed with liquids, such as water or mercury. Sound familiar?
Mercury and vortexes again.
Yep. His device, the repulsion, was described as an inverse propulsion system, something you could mount vertically in a sub or aircraft. It was meant to create what Schauberger called a biological vacuum, basically using vortex dynamics to sort of suck the vehicle forward rather than push it. And the special shape of this device led to the story that Victor Schauberger is the inventor of flying saucers.
And Schauberger himself, he thought he wasn't inventing something new, but rediscovering something old.
He did. He actually refers to old Indian texts. He said he read out of these texts that these old peoples use some kind of flowing magnetism that allows them to overcome gravity. That's a direct parallel to the Vimana propulsion ideas we were just discussing.
Wow. What's fascinating here is this potential connection through German scientists, then, how these ancient Indian ideas might have resurfaced.
Well, historically, the Germans were the best Oriental scholars in the world, especially back then. They put a lot of effort into translating ancient texts. They translated the ancient text Sanskrit and later into German. So German scientists, particularly those interested in advanced or fringe ideas, study these ancient Indian epics and were familiar with the ideas of Vimanas. And the theory goes that they combined that knowledge with this vortex technology from people like Schauberger and possibly even, as the story goes, this crash disk from 1936 in the Black Forest, and used all that to create their designs for these flying saucers during the Nazi era. It suggests a potential direct lineage of ideas.
So what does all this mean, this thread from ancient India to 20th century Germany?
It suggests, fundamentally, that maybe some ancient knowledge isn't just myth. Maybe threads of it persist, get rediscovered, and perhaps even influence technological thinking much, much later. It challenges our neat timelines of progress.
And speaking of ancient symbols and their journeys, there's one more detail connecting India and, 20th century Germany that really shows how meaning can shift. The swastika. Today, its association is tragically locked with the Nazi regime. It's impossible to see it otherwise for many.
But its origins are completely different. It's actually a Sanskrit word from ancient India.
Yeah.
It means mark of good fortune.
Mm.
And the symbol itself dates back over 3,000 years. It's ancient.
And you find it everywhere, right? Not only in ancient India, but all over the world, in many cultures, signifying good luck or well-being. It's just such a powerful reminder of how symbols, like knowledge, travel and get reinterpreted, sometimes with devastating consequences. Okay. What an incredible deep dive this has been. Seriously, we've gone from these ancient Sanskrit texts describing flying machines, Vimanas, to looking at possible propulsion, Mercury vortexes, gyroscopes. Their eerie similarities to modern UFO reports, the terrifying idea of ancient superweapons like Brahmastras, and then this unexpected loop into 20th century German research, Schauberger, and maybe even the flying saucer concept. It's a lot.
It really leaves you wrestling with that core question, doesn't it? For you, the listener, to ponder. Were these just mythological tales that they were making up fantastical stories?
Yeah.
Or were they describing physical, real events, trying to describe them as the best that they could with the tools and understanding they possessed back then?
Yeah. And that leaves us with a final thought for you to consider. We live in an age saturated with information, right? But how might our understanding of everything, history, technology, reality itself, how might that shift if we genuinely opened our minds just a crack to the idea that some myths aren't myths at all, but maybe echoes of a past we've forgotten? What stands out to why you most from these ancient deep dives into the truly unknown? Something to think about.